Hi, I'm Carmen Blair, the Deputy Director of the San Mateo County Historical Association. One of the long-standing traditions of Victorian days is fashion shows. Back in the early 1980s, Millie Hagstrom, a member of the Museum Auxiliary, started a vintage clothing collection. This is not part of the museum's permanent collection. The Millie Collection is an education collection. It's meant to be used in reenactments, in special events, and for fashion shows. We had hoped that we would be able to bring you a new fashion show this year and show you some of the new additions to our collection. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, it was unsafe for us to bring in models. So we looked back into the archives. Today, we will be showing you the Victorian and Edwardian fashions from 150 years of fashion. This show was presented in 2017 as part of Redwood City's sesquicentennial celebration. As most of the Victorian outfits in the collection are very small, our models are high school and college students. There's also a special surprise at the end of the show. With that, I'd like to travel back in time to see our first fashion. I promised 150 years of fashion, but we are really presenting 160 years of fashion. Miss McKenna is wearing the oldest dress in the collection, an 1850s brown, black, and rust silk day dress. This two-piece dress has a hoop skirt and lace collar. The dress has pagoda sleeves, small at the shoulder and wide at the elbows. The style of sleeves were named after the pagoda towers of the Orient, small at top and wide at the bottom. As Miss McKenna will show us, sleeves can be detachable and can be removed for easy cleaning. She is wearing a rust-colored hat with tulle and beads and carrying an embroidered parasol. Miss McKenna is visiting Redwood City today, staying at the American House. On May 14, 1856, ballots were counted at this hotel from the very first San Mateo County election. There were less than 1,000 eligible voters in the county and almost 2,000 ballots counted. Thank you, Ms. McKenna. Redwood City in the early 1860s had a certain Wild West feel, with a plethora of saloons on the main streets serving the loggers and port workers. However, Miss Annika is showing us the dress of a respectable woman in town. As was the case in the 1850s, fashions in the 1860s featured the hoop skirt. Made out of thin rings of steel, hoops allowed the bell shape of the dress to become much larger than what could be accomplished by petticoats. The brown in the dress tells us that this is fall or winter attire. The silk fringe in the day dress tells us that it either belonged to an upper-class lady or was a woman's Sunday best. In the early 1860s, Miss Annika could attend church in the upper floor of the courthouse. Hopefully the service won't be interrupted by courthouse events on the lower level. On at least one memorable occasion, service was interrupted by escaped prisoners on the first floor. Thank you, Miss Annika. Hoop skirts in the 1860s could reach 6 feet in diameter. More physical activities, such as riding a horse, required some modification to fashion. Miss Charlotte is wearing a blue velvet riding habit, minus any hoops,
As she lifts the skirt, you can see the extra material that allowed it to hang just right as she rides side saddle. The jacket reflects the look of a military uniform, a common sight during the Civil War. The feather on her blue velvet hat would bounce as she rode. Miss Charlotte is ready for a ride on the Horace Hawes estate. A state assemblyman, Hawes is considered the father of San Mateo County for sponsoring the bill that formed the county. By the 1960s, the Hawes family lived in Redwood City at a 600-acre estate called Redwood Farm. Miss Charlotte, I hope you enjoy your ride. Miss Tessa is wearing a tan and brown linen day dress from the 1870s with a beaded hat. Notice that the hoop has disappeared. During the 1870s, there were a variety of styles of the bustle that emphasized the back of the dress. This is from the first bustle period, as the fabric gathers in the back of the dress with a small bustle pad. Miss Tessa looks like she's ready to attend a gathering at Finger Grove. After the train arrived in Redwood City in 1863, August Finger operated a popular picnic grove located near the depot. At times, the railroad provided special trains for events at the grove, with as many as 3,000 people attending. Thank you, Miss Tessa. I hope that you enjoy your picnic. Miss Carolyn, Miss Olivia, and Miss Grace are showing us Victorian sleepwear. Nightgowns in the early 1800s tended to be plain and shapeless. That changed as the century progressed, especially for the middle and upper class. There were a variety of styles. Necklines could be cut in a round, square or V shape, or have stand-up collars. They could be lightly gathered, puffed, or pleated sleeves, partially or fully open on the front or back with ribbons or handmade buttons. They could be pleated or tucked in the front. Embellishments such as frills, ruffles, tucks, ribbons, lace, beading, and embroidery would often be added to the necklines, collars, and sleeves, the cuffs, and the skirts. Young ladies could spend years embroidering petticoats and nightgowns for their bridal trousseau. Ladies, I hope you have a candle ready for any nighttime wanderings. Electric lights did not come to Redwood City until January 1889. Thank you, ladies. Miss Grace is wearing an 1880s cream-colored evening dress with ruching. That's the pleated look on the front of the dress. While the back of the dress is still emphasized with gathered material, a cage bustle is no longer worn. Quite a social group was established on the peninsula by the 1880s. Miss Grace looks like she's ready for an evening at the Selby estate in Menlo Park, where Mrs. Selby served 17-course dinners. Her guests were seated by 6 p.m. and the meal finished at midnight. Mrs. Selby considered anything of a shorter duration a failure. Thank you, Miss Grace. Miss Ariel is dressed in that all too familiar outfit, the mourning dress, also known as widow's weeds. You can tell the dress is from the 1890s with a full skirt and leg of mutton sleeves, very full at the top and tapered after the elbow. And the black tells us that this is a mourning dress. In the Victorian era, mourning clothes go through 3 distinct stages. Full mourning is all black, little or no ornamentation, and a veil worn over the face when outside. For widows, this stage lasts about a year, though Queen Victoria remained in full mourning for 3 years after Prince Albert died. During second mourning, the veil is worn behind the face and some ornamentation is allowed. Widows traditionally are in this stage of clothes for 9 months. It was not until the 6 months of half mourning that colors such as gray or purple were introduced to a widow's clothes. Now Miss Ariel is wearing a beaded shawl with no veil, so she is in the later stages of mourning. One also wears mourning for parents, siblings, or children, although all 3 stages are completed in a year in that instance. Thank you, Miss Ariel. Miss Caitlin is wearing an 1890s floral cotton dress with ribbon details. In keeping with the 1890s, it has a pigeon dress bodice and a small train. With her large hat, Miss Caitlin is ready for a garden party or afternoon event. Perhaps she's been invited to spend the afternoon at Burlingame Country Club. Horse and carriage shows were popular social occasions. On one such occasion in the 1890s, lunch at the clubhouse was followed by a parade of 17 carriages and ended with a rendezvous in the Howard Woods, where tea was served as the music played. Thank you, Miss Caitlin. Miss Tessa is ready for a day at the beach. She is wearing a 100% wool bathing suit. Imagine what that suit would smell like after having been in the ocean. Before this, a Victorian woman went into the sea in a long dress, sometimes attaching weights to the bottom of the dress to prevent it from floating up. In the late 1890s, bathing suits developed that featured a one-piece fitted blouse and bloomer-like bottoms. But do note that we are not calling them swimming suits, but bathing suits. A proper woman like Miss Tessa did not go into the water to do vigorous swimming. Instead, the water would most likely only come to her ankles or knees. She not only wears a swimming cap, but also has a parasol to shield her face from the sun. On the peninsula, Coyote Point was a popular place for a beach picnic. Of course, in most of the pictures I've seen, only the men were in the water. The ladies were watching safely from shore. Thank you, Miss Tessa, and have fun at the beach. And next, we have Miss Zoe in an 1890s sea green day dress with lace. Notice that the bustle has disappeared. This is the Gibson girl style. Starting in the 1890s, Charles Dana Gibson created pen and ink illustrations showing the feminine ideal of beauty. While one of my favorites, this dress is rarely shown in fashion shows due to the extremely small waist. Of course, in the 1890s, women would have worn corsets to achieve the small waist. Specifically for this style, an S-shaped corset. At the time, the S-bend was thought to be healthier for the wearer as it placed less direct pressure on the front of the abdomen. The S-shaped corset plus the gathering in the front of the bodice created the unique pigeon dress silhouette. Miss Zoe, could you please demonstrate the ideal posture of an 1890s woman? Thank you. Later, this corset style was felt to be back to the spine. The dress also features a short train and a cuff to the sleeves, typical of an 1890s Day dress. She is carrying a parasol to protect her skin from the sun. Ladies did not tan. Perhaps she is ready to go see President Harrison at the train station. In 1891, the president stopped by on his way to visit Charles Felton in Menlo Park. Thank you, Miss Zoe. We leave the Victorian period and enter the 1900s with Miss Grace wearing a tan cotton day dress with a black velvet bow on neckline and sleeves. Known as the Edwardian period of fashion, after Queen Victoria's son King Edward, the S-shaped corset is gone and women are standing upright again. They are still wearing corsets, but ones that extend over the hips for a straight line. Miss Grace could wear this outfit to the new Redwood City Library. Like many places across the country, the city received a bequest from Andrew Carnegie to build a library. It opened in 1905 and featured a beautiful reading room. Months later, it was heavily damaged in the 1906 earthquake, but Carnegie provided additional funds to repair it. Thank you, Miss Grace. Miss Caroline is wearing a typical Edwardian summer dress. We have several white linen dresses in the collection with white embroidery on both dress and jacket. Miss Caroline could have worn this dress on July 4th, 1910, the day this very building was dedicated. The San Mateo leader declared the celebration, quote, the greatest in San Mateo County, unquote. The grand parade stretched for 2 miles and featured a battalion of the National Guard, 4 bands, and floats from organizations such as the Native Daughters of the Golden West. The parade was followed by literary exercises, speeches, and musical performances at the courthouse. Enjoy the festivities, Miss Caroline. Miss Dana is wearing a pleated silk Edwardian dress from the 1910s. While King Edward of England died in 1910, in fashion terms, the Edwardian period continues through World War I. The purple color is unlike the rest of the Edwardian day dresses in the Millie collection. Perhaps the colors signify a death in the family. Immediately after a death, the family would be in full mourning, wearing black and attending no social events. However, gradually colors such as white, gray, and purple would be included in a woman's clothes. While fancy balls were not allowed during this half-mourning period, an afternoon social event was acceptable. Perhaps Miss Dana is off to see an air show at the Redwood City Airport. The airport also had a flight school that Amelia Earhart came to visit. Thank you, Miss Dana. Miss Hadley is wearing a white cotton voile or net dress with purple embroidered flowers and a matching hat. With that color scheme, perhaps she attends Sequoia High School, where the school colors are purple and white. Established in 1895, it was the first public high school between San Francisco and Santa Clara. Notice that her ankles are showing in this outfit. Headlines are gradually starting to rise. This would be a good dress for her to attend a garden party at the home of Mrs. Pissis, who had a tea garden on her grounds. She sold the land at the end of the decade for the new Sequoia High School campus. Thank you, Miss Hallie.
Do you hear that? I think there's a suffrage rally occurring in Courthouse Square. Women fought for decades to win the right to vote in the United States. In 1848, activists had met in Seneca Falls, New York, to discuss the problems of women's rights. They declared that all men and women are created equal. In 1910, suffragists successfully lobbied the state legislature in California to put the issue of women voting on the ballot. While the measure was soundly defeated in the San Francisco Bay Area, it did pass statewide, giving women in California the vote. But the struggle for suffrage continued. In the 1910s, women continued to work and protest to pass a woman's suffrage amendment to the United States Constitution. We can tell that this rally is in 1918, as our suffragists are wearing face masks. During the 1918-1919 influenza epidemic, local authorities required residents to wear face masks to help prevent the spread of the disease. In 1918, the proposed amendment failed in the United States Senate by 2 votes. On June 4, 1919, the amendment passed the Senate and was sent to the states for ratification. On August 18, 1920, the Tennessee General Assembly passed the ratification resolution, giving the amendment the final state needed. On August 26, 1920, the 19th Amendment was certified into the United States Constitution, giving American women the right to vote.
Thank you for joining us for today's fashion show. My special thanks go to Laura Cox, who coordinated the 150 Years of Fashion show, being our fashion expert. I also would like to extend special thanks to members of the Museum Auxiliary and their friends for participating in our COVID-19 Safe Suffrage March on Courthouse Square. I hope that you're able to soon join us for a live event here in Courtroom A. Thank you.